Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition, episode number 64 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. As always, it's great to have you in today. We're talking about Jonathan India's swing, breaking that down, our Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 11. Ep kind of alluded to it at the end of the show last week, how he didn't like certain swing plane of Jonathan India. We'll get to that during his swing. We're actually going to get to that in just a second here. We're also going to get to his spring breakdown. Plus, Yerwin Mercedes retired, then he unretired, and there's something going on there that's really weird. We'll get to that, and we'll also talk about Juan Soto's resurgence in the second half as well. But first, let me bring in successful business owner, my former coach, friend, and co-host, and also he's a great professional evaluator, as we spoke about last week. His name is Jake Epstein.
That's me. However, I like India. It was your guy that I didn't like. His recent swing plane, the Blue Jays guy, Austin Martin. That was the one I was having. But I like what India does. And actually, looking at the videos again today, it'll be kind of cool to go through it in slow motion because I really haven't spent a lot of time with it.
Interesting. You say that because I keep my receipts, and you did say at the end of the show last week you don't really like his swing plane very much right now.
Austin Martin?
No, you said it about Austin Martin, but you said it about Jonathan India too.
I did. I'm getting old, and sometimes I get easily confused.
You're only 40. You're not. That's not old.
44.
44. Okay, maybe you didn't say it.
Next week, 2 weeks.
Maybe yeah.
I'll go back. Don't worry. I'll go back and listen and bust you on it just to make sure.
Do it. And then next week you come back and then you can bust me on it.
Yes.
I want to change my World Series pick representing the American League, by the way. Could I do that? Do you mind?
Why? Is this some place not part of Champa Bay?
It is not. It's not Champa Bay. Although I have not said Champa Bay in a few weeks, and I think I'm going to go to that next week.
Nelson Cruz, though, that was a good pickup.
It was. I want to change my World Series pick to the White Sox. I think they're going to make the World Series and eventually lose. And I say that because it's been a weird year coupled with injuries and some squabbles between, or that's what's been reported, right? Mm-hmm. Squabbles between Tony La Russa and his players, and now Yerwin Mercedes. He is retired and is unretired. And I did get an email earlier this week regarding Yerwin Mercedes, who abruptly retired, and then, of course, unretired 24 hours later. This email comes to us, and I want to read it to you here. It comes to us from our loyal listener, JJ, who wrote in a few weeks ago, if you remember, about Yerwin Mercedes, and he kind of made fun of him. But he writes, JJ, Jim and Jake, looks like Yerwin Mercedes is done for it now, at least. His hamburger, Yerminator, is now the Terminator. Jake was right. Tony La Russa robbed him of his mojo by criticizing him for swinging at 3-0. Thrown by a position player in a blowout. Coaches, beware. It's not what you say, it's what you say to whom that matters. Here's hoping that Yerwin and the Yerminator makes it back to the show. And that is from JJ. And he writes, Shawnee against the world. JJ, I want to let you know really quick about Shawnee. The only player I know who has come from Shawnee that has made it to the big leagues is Sean Doolittle, Shawnee High School.
That's a guy.
And then he went on to the University of Virginia, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
But he went to a Shawnee High School in New Jersey, so it's not. I don't understand this Shawnee against the world.
I think that was their motto or something when they. I remember That's JJ cool. saying that.
Yeah, at cool. Point. Shawnee against the world. Well, we could say the lab against the world too, but
yes,
it's easy to do that. JJ, thanks for writing in, though. All joking aside, let's get to Yerwin here. JJ, I don't know if he likes Yerwin or doesn't. I don't think what you said a few weeks back about Tony La Russa and Yerwin Mercedes was wrong in any particular way.
Yeah,
I don't think that really knocked him, Yerwin Mercedes. That comment from Tony La Russa knocked him off his game. I think there is a mental baseball problem mentally that Yerwin has. It's mental immaturity. And I think it's the reason why he did so well in the beginning of the year. And now in the last few months prior to being sent down to AAA, really, really struggled. He just couldn't figure it out mentally and how to make that adjustment. I don't think it had anything really to do with Tony La Russa. I think this whole thing comes from just his mental immaturity right now.
Well, it could, but that didn't help. I mean, you get called out by your manager and your manager doesn't have your back, and in fact makes an example out of it. Not just, you keep that kind of stuff in the clubhouse. You don't you don't air your grievances out in the media. So yeah, I'm sure that pissed him off, and then he probably doesn't have the mental fortitude yet to deal with additional outside stresses like that, and it probably snowballed on him. So yeah, interesting what he's trying to do. I don't know. I mean, he may have some mental issues that he needs to overcome, but maybe he's trying to force a trade. Maybe he doesn't want to be part of that hierarchy, part of that organization anymore, and he figures he can get a fresh start with somebody else. I remember my dad. This is kind of a funny story, but he was like one of the first guys to ever force a trade because there was no free agency. So he came up with Baltimore, and they tried to make him into an outfielder because he could run pretty well, but he couldn't see. So he couldn't see the ball off the bat. So he had to play first base. Well, they had Boog Powell as a first baseman. So my dad, I think his first year in pro ball, he went to A ball in California League and was player of the year. Then the next year he skipped double A, went to triple A, won the Triple Crown at triple A, was a minor league player of the year, not just league player of the year, minor league player of the year. And then he goes to spring training the next year. And after they break camp, they sent him down. And he said, well, screw you guys. Like, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, well, what are you going to do? And so he says, well, I'm going to go home. So I'll see you guys later. So he didn't report back to AAA where he was just player of the year. And he ended up forcing a trade a month later to the Washington Senators, the worst team in the league. Mm-hmm. But that's what enabled him to play for Ted Williams a couple of years later. So, I'm wondering if Mercedes is kind of doing that same thing. Like, okay, you release me, you do whatever you want, but get me out of here. I don't want to be in this environment anymore. And whether or not that will help, I don't really know. And then a side note on that story about my dad, he got offered to become a professional wrestler at that time, WWF or whatever the thing was back then.
Really?
In 1967.
So it was Vince McMahon Sr. that offered him a job. You're kidding, right?
No, not at all. I mean, he was a big, burly guy, athletic. And he had offers to do that.
This could have been a completely different show if your dad would have taken up professional wrestling. Yeah, we would be we'd be probably doing the 80th stupid wrestling podcast that's out there.
Yes.
There's 80 wrestling podcasts.
God, I would have loved to see what character my dad could have been.
Has he
ever,
sorry, has he ever been in like a wrestling ring?
No.
I have before, believe it or not.
Have you? Yeah.
I have. Long story.
I believe it.
We'll say that for another day.
Okay.
But over my time being in professional baseball, I've had the chance to be in a professional wrestling ring, and I've had a chance to meet wrestlers. Sting, right? Where did he wrestle? Sting.
Yeah.
Who else?
He had like a star on his eye or something.
Right. Or something like that. Right. Ron Simmons. Was he a big name? I met him.
Okay.
Leo Rush. Did he ever make any? I met him a few years back. Maryland Championship Wrestling. I don't know if he ever made a name for himself. Yeah. But they let me go inside the ring. That ring hurts. It really does. So I don't criticize the performers. I criticize the fans who like wrestling who think it's
the show. No, you just got to appreciate the show.
I can't. I can't do it. It's not real. Okay. Well, it's not. I don't want to speak it. Whatever. I'm not going to speak out of turn. I'm more UFC. Okay. But also, I want to just kind of circle back there for a second to what you said about him trying to force a trade. If I'm like a scout or something and I'm assigned to go look at Yerwin Mercedes, I'm going to come back with saying I wouldn't trade for this guy unless we have a really strong clubhouse. And I think back to, say, like a Josh Donaldson when he was traded to the Blue Jays in 2015. They had a lot of strong leaders in that clubhouse. But once he became the guy in 2018 with the Blue Jays, he became disruptive because that's his type of personality.
Yeah.
It's just the way he is. He wasn't like that with the Indians because they had strong leaders in late 2018. Same with the Braves in 2019. Well, how about now with the Minnesota Twins? The Twins are one of the worst teams in the league, and he's one of the face and front guys of that team. I'm not saying Yerwin Mercedes is like that, but a guy who, in my opinion, with Yerwin right now being where he is mentally, that could affect a weaker clubhouse. I don't think it'll affect the White Sox clubhouse if it gets brought up this year during the stretch run to try to help them push for the postseason, because I think there's enough strong leaders in that clubhouse, including the manager, who you say you don't agree with him calling him out, and that's fine. But I think he is strong enough to control his clubhouse still. And there's a bunch of leaders in that clubhouse where they can still overcome all these injuries and be one of the best teams in the American League.
Yeah.
I hope I articulated that.
Yeah. When you're get off your
through all of our wrestling talk, I hope I articulated that correctly. Who was your favorite wrestler? Sorry.
I hope he ends up back there because he's a really fun guy to watch play.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, do you want to go to your job if you know your boss hates you?
Oh, I don't think he hates him though.
I don't know.
I don't think that's the case.
Then why did he want to quit? Because he got sent down.
Because he's immature.
Right.
That's why he wanted to quit. What would your dad say? What would your dad say to that?
Oh, it's just say he's soft.
Okay,
the guy can
that's
go
what
to
it is.
AAA.
That's what it is then.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, you could have a manager berate the hell out of you.
So you're telling me Ted Williams never called out your dad or anybody? Jim Fregosi never called. Joe Torre never called out people?
Always.
All right.
And some people can handle it and some people can't.
You know, you look at, an old school manager like Tony La Russa, Dusty Baker, they're doing really well right now. But you say, well, I don't like the way not you, but I don't like the way that they manage, or I don't like the way they carry themselves. They're all old school. Okay, well, who do you want? You want a new school manager, like, say, an Aaron Boone, and the Yankees are, and it's not his fault, but he doesn't have the type of personality to where he can get around analytics and get around the people actually making the decisions and step up and say, hey, I want to make this, I want to do this, or I want to do this. I mean, they lost really badly the other night to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Really bad. I mean, so who pick your poison? You want somebody, you want a manager who's going to hold you,
right? He's a new school guy, and the Giants are destroying everybody.
But he failed the first time in Philadelphia.
He sure did,
because he didn't hold guys accountable. I believe. I don't know. I'm not in that clubhouse, but I think that's the issue, and I think that
maybe the Phillies is just a terrible organization in a terrible town. I don't know. How many people just got so pissed off and turned it off right now? No, I'm just kidding.
We do have listeners in South Jersey and Pennsylvania.
The East Coast big, but no, I mean, why is Kapler successful in San Francisco that had zero talent on paper? Zero.
That's not true.
They had you don't even know anybody's name on that team except Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt. That's it.
Are you sure?
Buster Posey, who hadn't had a good year in 5 years, and all of a sudden,
this guy rolls into town. Darren Ruff.
Yeah, whatever.
Johnny Cueto.
I'm talking when the season started, maybe Cueto.
No, I knew.
But why did he fail so miserably at Philadelphia? Was it the management?
I think it was the combination of the town. He didn't know how to handle the town. Didn't know how to be the front guy of an organization. I think he was wrapped up in his ways. I think that on the fan side, they found him to be weird and too eccentric, and they didn't like analytics. So the fans in sports talk radio and stupid podcasts, not ours though. Our podcast isn't stupid, but stupid podcasts, and everybody else in the media maybe forced him out a little bit. I heard tell that he wasn't exactly liked in the organization by a lot of people. There's people in the organization actually told me that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I'm saying he's on his second try. But if you want to talk about Philadelphia right now, look at Joe Girardi, who was a no-nonsense manager with the Yankees and didn't connect with the clubhouse anymore in New York. That's why they didn't re-sign him, because his contract did expire. He didn't really get fired. I hate when people say that. He kind of got They didn't renew his contract, laid off, whatever you want to call it. Now in Philadelphia,
took his keys.
But now in Philadelphia, it looks like he's changed, not for the better. They're 48-48 going into Saturday.
Yeah.
So pick your poison.
Yeah. No, you got to be tough. And I'm not saying that La Russa should not have been tough on Mercedes, but he shouldn't have been tough in press conferences.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right. Like it's you grab him by the jersey and you pull him into the walkway back to the clubhouse, and you can beat the tar out of him or verbally abuse him all you want, to a point, but to make your point, but you don't sit down at the press conference after and just say, yeah, he's an idiot. That was a stupid, you just don't do it. Cause then you have sound bites and, we could talk about life in general now and the amount of depression that goes on with kids and with young adults because everything they see is in front of them on their phone. And Mercedes is just sitting there. He's a young guy, and he's looking at all these people that hate him, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what he sees all the time. And where did it start? It's a soundbite from his manager. So, there's a lot that you can tear into this thing. It could be a guy that's immature. It could be a guy that's in a terrible slump and doesn't want to get out of it. He doesn't want to change anything. Mm-hmm. And the organization has had enough of him too. And so he's just a child, and I quit. Okay.
You're playing both sides here. I can kind of see it.
I play all sides. There might be 3 sides I'm playing.
How are you playing 3 sides? There's only 2 sides to it.
Cal State Fullerton.
Who was your favorite
Think
wrestler?
at a different level.
Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
My favorite wrestler growing up?
Yeah. Lighten the mood here.
I was a big Jim Hacksaw Duggan fan.
God.
I mean, Jim was a guy that probably didn't have all the right chromosomes, but he had a 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him. I liked the Ultimate Warrior. That guy was he was a maniac.
Oh, the guy who would like go crazy and
yeah. And I like Jake the Snake Roberts because my name was Jake.
Yeah.
And he was big and tall. And in college, I like The Undertaker because my college coach called me The Undertaker.
Why do you call you the Undertaker?
I guess because I was just bigger. I was bigger than everyone else at Fullerton. We did not have large humans on that team.
Did you know that the Undertaker just retired like a year ago? I
Yes.
saw that on Twitter.
Great
God bless
podcast. Because podcasts are great. Like if you decide, hey, I love the Lab podcast, but maybe give Joe Rogan a try because I heard he's pretty good.
Right.
But there's one with the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's awesome because he was a big MMA guy. Like he used to study all the MMA, go to all the MMA fights and kind of study that stuff. But I mean, this guy is like every part of his body's been replaced and he just chiefed it out. He's constantly got repaired and still wrestled even with, surgery like 2 weeks ago. Mental toughness.
So your dad could have been wrestling against all those guys if he would have chosen wrestling.
Yeah. And wouldn't be able to walk anymore.
I want to talk to him. I'm going to tell him how he made a life mistake not going into wrestling. All right, we'll move on here. Let's talk a little bit about Juan Soto's resurgence, and people will see it on the graphic, his numbers here in the second half. I did see something during the home run derby with Juan Soto that made a light went off in my head that kind of made me think he may have a big second half. He hit a couple of balls. You probably noticed this if you did watch the home run derby. He hit a couple of balls, line drives with this tight backspin that just kept rising. But he hit them to left center and center field. And I've always noticed with Juan Soto, when he's going really well, that's where he's hitting balls because that's his swing profile to me. I mean, yeah, he'll hit bombs into like the 4th, 5th, 7th deck of, a ballpark. But he'll hit it to right field, if you see some of his home runs from 2019, I mean, he goes opposite field or he goes to left center field. And I saw that in the home run derby, and they were traveling over the wall because it's, as you know, it's Colorado, but they were traveling over the wall, and it was just a really nice swing. Swing was on plane. Everything was where it needed to be. I'm not going to get into it. I'll let you get into it. But does that have something to do with it? Did the home run derby actually fix Juan Soto? And my second question to that, what is going right for him? Why is he going right now? What did he tinker with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the home run derby has ever helped a player, quite honestly. Usually it's just the opposite. I don't want to do the home run derby because, I'm trying to launch, I'm trying to swing up a little bit more because the BP ball's coming in slow, and some guys will get into trouble with that. Soto will get into habits of swinging up too much. And he gets into those grooves, and that's when he really only hits balls to right center well. If he's a little bit late, he'll pop up to left center. And if he's a little bit early, he'll pull balls foul or hook balls foul. So I think when he's good, when he's a little bit flatter, because he stays behind the ball so well, even when he does his like no stride, 2-strike deal, he just stays back behind the vertical axis so well. So it's easy for him to swing up because his body is constantly staying back, right? And so if you start to sit back and then you're also starting to lead up with your lead arm too much, then that barrel drops ever so slightly, and then you end up swinging up too much. And so his contact zone, if his timing is within, maybe a 10-inch window, then he's good. But if it's outside that 10-foot window, now all of a sudden he's fouling balls off, or he's flying out to left, and he's grounding out to the pull side. So by taking that 10 inches and flattening off his swing, now all of a sudden 10 inches is 20 inches. And now all of a sudden everybody says, oh, his timing is better.
Yeah.
Well, his timing is probably the same. It's just his window's bigger to miss. So if he misses that window by 10%, he's still hitting a line drive somewhere, hitting a home run somewhere to the pull side instead of hooking it foul. So it likely all comes down to swing. I haven't seen it. it likely all comes down to swing plane and the fact that he probably borrowed from deep in the zone, meaning his barrel didn't drop as much. He kept it up a little longer there. And when that happens, usually we stay on playing with that pitch out in front longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden that makes our timing seem better because we're on plane for a longer amount of time out in front where we normally hit balls.
Mm-hmm. Last week also too, he hit a home run to the opposite field. I think it was the first or second inning too. Beautiful swing. So it goes to your point. I think that maybe it was a swing plane issue.
And when you have the ability to do that, to trust that I can let the ball get deep and not foul it off or swing under it.
Yeah.
When I have that ability where I don't have to jump, I don't have to be overly aggressive to get to balls. Because that's what happens. Like I got to hit it out in front. Like I want all my guys to hit the ball out in front. Right. But if they're hitting it out in front by jumping, right, by being aggressive with their legs or their head, trying to get it out in front, that doesn't work. We want your body to be relaxed and to rotate behind the ball back, over your back leg a little bit more. We just want your hands to get out in front. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is sometimes when we're trying to get the ball out in front more and we're trying to hit the ball harder, we get tense and aggressive, and then our body starts to lunge, and then we get out in front of everything. And that's a bad spot to be. So I think maybe now he's relaxed, staying back, feeling like I can let the ball get deep and not pop it up. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, he's just more chill at the plate.
Really quickly, we always have new listeners, and this was something I thought of earlier in the week, and I wrote it down here. Which stats for you when evaluating hitter do you feel are most important? We touched on it way, way back, one of our first few episodes, but we, again, always have new listeners, so let's kind of dive right back into that.
I'm somewhat of an old school, how many runs do you score? Because you might be a small guy, right? So do you score runs? Do you get on base percentage, obviously, and then slugging percentage. So OPS for me, if you have a good OPS, you're probably a good hitter. You're getting on base, whether you're hitting the ball or they're afraid of you. But if they're afraid of you, it's because you're hitting the ball well. And you're also hitting the ball hard for extra bases. So, I do like OPS and and on base percentage. I think you fill your lineup with the mix of those people that get on base and those people that hit the ball, hit doubles, hit the ball hard. Then I think as a manager, as a coach, you're going to score runs and hopefully win more games. Average, I do look at average. Maybe I'm the only one that looks at average, but average just kind of tells me how many, are guys just outhouse or penthouse, are they just trying to launch everything, or are they scrapping? Are they having competitive at bats? Mm-hmm. Maybe how many 2-strike hits a player has, are they scrappy? I don't care about a 2-strike home run. I know a lot of people do, but a 2-strike home run in the 8th inning when you're down 5 runs, down 4 runs, and you're the only, that doesn't matter. Yeah. You're going to get good pitches to hit. Mm-hmm. But in pressure situations, are you able to stay competitive?
So OPS, depending on the profile of the hitter, OPS, it profiles for every hitter, and batting average maybe is more important, say, to a gap-to-gap type hitter. Or is it important to every hitter? I don't know.
You can still have a decent OPS as a leadoff guy.
Right.
Because you're getting on base. Maybe your on base percentage is 400, or something like that. And that would be crucial for that team, even though their slugging percentage might be lower than somebody that's hitting 3, 4, 5, or 6. Mm-hmm. Their on base percentage is picking up the difference on that.
What stat shows more depth in a hitter? OPS or batting average? Or any other stat?
More depth of a hitter.
Think about it. It's like with a girl. Right? Trying to date or something. She's really good looking, but she doesn't have much depth to her. Not much up there. Could be like.
What about for our softball listeners? What if there was a guy and he was good looking, but he was just a prick, right?
There's probably more of that with the
There's definitely more of that. I think it depends on the hitter. It depends what hole I'm trying to fill. If I'm trying to fill, like I said, 3, 4, 5, 6, I want a high OPS, right? Or a high slugging percentage. If it's earlier in the order, I want a high on base percentage and I want a limited amount of strikeouts.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want guys that, if it's my number 1 or 2 hitter or maybe my 7, 8, 9 hitters, I don't want those guys striking out once every 3 times up.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to want a higher average and a much lower strikeout rate from those hitters. My middle of the order hitters, if they strike out more, I'm okay, because maybe if they try to just put it in play, maybe they roll over and it's a double play ball. Right. So I'd rather have them maybe 1 out of 10 times instead of a double play, they hit a 2 or 3 run home run. So again, you have to cater it towards your line and building a lineup and what players you have in that lineup and what you're leaning on them towards. But early, I don't really care slugging percentage, my number 1 or 2 hitters. I care more about on base percentage, and I would care about their strikeout rate.
Yeah. And walk rate.
But that's me. And walks, right? Their on base percentage.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And what about bottom of the order hitters? Same thing. Maybe higher batting.
Yeah, maybe you're 8 and 9 hitters.
Mm-hmm. We're really talking. I think we're talking old school here, because analytics would say the number 2 hitter has to be the best hitter on the team.
Right. Right, and then really they're not caring as much about strikeouts, and
yeah,
if that hitter strikes out 8 times but hits a 3-run home run once a week,
yeah,
maybe that 3-run home run means something. Maybe, but a lot of times guys hit home run. I mean, there are so many home runs that are hit that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like I turn on the highlights and it's like, oh, this guy hit his 26th home run, and it's a fastball right down the middle in the 8th inning, and the team's down by 4 runs.
Yeah,
like, woo! There was no pressure in that at bat. There's 0 pressure in that at bat. So, but what is it when the game? It's a 1-run game. What kind of hitter are you? Can you fight? So I feel like if a player hits 40 home runs, I'd love to look back. This would be fun for JJ. I'm going to put JJ on this.
Okay.
From Shawnee.
Against the world.
How many home runs last year? Like we go, wow, last year was kind of silly. I guess we could do this year. Let's see how many home runs. Who's hitting a lot of home runs? Is Mike Trout playing this year, by the way?
Is he playing? Yes. He's
on the okay. I was just going to say, I didn't even hear his name. I haven't heard his name in months.
He's on the injured list currently.
Oh, he is. He's okay. So he's hurt. Yeah. Shohei just took over. But I mean, we could look at Shohei and say, how many of his home runs changed the course of a game, right? Like put his team ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Were they already ahead by 3 runs?
JJ's gonna have to do a lot of research.
That's so much research. JJ, you don't have to do that. But
I mean, you know what, JJ, if it's good for the show.
That's right. It's good for everyone. But I mean, you can take Josh Donaldson, Nelson Cruz. You can take any of these guys. They've hit 25 home runs, 20 home runs. How many of those home runs were fluff? I guarantee you. I can
tell you with Nelson,
25 to 30% of them were fluff.
But you're taking 2 guys though this year who aren't on a very good team, so they may the home runs that you say are fluff. They may have hit more fluff home runs rather than if they were on a better team. Nelson Cruz, though, the other night when he debuted with the Rays, hit a home run that was very meaningful in that game.
Yeah. Nelson Cruz, that guy's not young.
39, 40.
Dude, he's so good, and he's so clutch.
Yeah.
And he's such a tough out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are guys that I pay.
High character makeup. One more thing before we jump into Jonathan India's swing and his mechanical breakdown. And we're doing a mechanical breakdown series, volume 11 today. Jonathan India. Go back and listen and watch in the archives on our YouTube page, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast on YouTube, plus Apple, Google, Spotify, and emails your questions, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. If you do have any questions about Jonathan India or anything else, or you want to make fun of players, as JJ likes to do with Yerwin Mercedes. Kidding, JJ, of course. We do have previous mechanical.
As long as you're not making fun of us.
They can make fun of us. We do have previous mechanical breakdown series, by the way. That I think
have we done a Mookie Betts?
We have not. We'll do him though very soon. We got to do another softball gal too. I'm thinking maybe Bailey Hempill should be one of our mechanical. We have Shohei Ohtani coming up. We're doing him. That'll be fun. We might be doing Cedric Mullins too, I think. So there's a top of the order guy who you're going to look at is OPS and batting average. Those are the statistics you'll look at with him when you're trying to figure out his hitting profile, right?
Sal.
Who?
Frelick.
Oh, can we do him too?
Sure.
Oh, yes. Finally. I've been waiting.
He's in. He's signed for more than his slot value.
Well, good for him.
I know.
Good for him. I can't wait to see him in the big leagues in 2.5 years, 2 years.
Let's hope so.
I think he will be. I'm glad we can finally get to him. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
He did Spencer Torkelson last year. That's in the archives as well. One more thing, though, before we jump into his swing. Hitting a low pitch. There's a lot of theories out there how to hit the low pitch. Let's end all theories now, and let's give your opinion. It's not your opinion. Let's give your factual analysis. How do you hit the damn low pitch?
You have to be able to recognize the low pitch, and you have to train the low pitch, and you have to get your body down to hit the low pitch. So there's a difference between training how to hit the low pitch and just hitting it. I think if you train to hit the low pitch, you're going to fail. You're going to maybe hit the low pitch, but you won't hit anything from the thighs to the belly button. I think if you train from the thighs to the belly button, and then you train a little bit to hit the low pitch, your body will move the right way to get to that low pitch. It'll lean over a little bit, right? Your spine will tilt in a little bit. That'll drop your barrel. That'll decrease your bat vertical angle to get there. You'll sink into your legs more. So it's a natural move. So there's a definite progression when I'm teaching hitters to hit different pitches. I know that I want to get them to hit the low pitch, but I'm not going to start there because 95% of players I see can hit the low pitch because somebody told them to set up the tee at their knees. And so they drop their barrel like a golfer would, they drop the shaft, if you will, or the bat. They'll drop their hands, they'll drop their elbow, and they'll loop underneath and hit that low pitch. And then the problem is you raise it 4 inches to like the middle of the thigh, which is the best pitch to hit, or even the top of the thigh is best pitch. And now all of a sudden their first move is down because they've been grooving that low pitch and they're toast. So
that's they're getting disconnected.
Absolutely. Their hands are leaving their body a little bit too early. So yes, you have to sink into your legs more. Yes, you got to drop your barrel a little bit more. But it should stay in the envelope if you teach them properly to hit other pitches. I guess that's the best way I would say it. That's how I teach it. Certification, that's how I teach my hit coaches to do it, because it makes it easier on you and the player, and you don't have to fix the problem. Because it'll create a problem.
One more thing. When is certification?
Certification is October 26th. October 16th and 17th. Yeah. In College Station, Texas.
See that for all of you wannabe YouTubers, or all you TikTokers, and all you other fake influencers, you scum of the earth, all of you trying to be celebrities. That right there is what's called a segue.
I'm also doing a coach's training.
I hate I hate YouTube influencers and Instagram influencers, by the way. I really do. Like, they're just this scum of society. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
As do I. You know why? Because my teenage kids, that's where they get their news.
That's where they get their news, and that's what they think it's, ugh.
Yeah.
I wish I wish that right was taken away for people. Social media. I wish social media would just go away.
Yeah.
I wish God would listen to me when I said, well, what were your camps, by the way? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm going to do a special event up in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, towards the end of September. Coach's Clinic, and it's going to be with Coach Snyder, Texas A&M softball coach. We're going to go up there and teach a bunch of organizations and coaches from all over, not just Alaska, but a lot of the Pacific Northwest. So if you want to come up for that, maybe get some fishing in while you're there.
Right.
See a beautiful part of the world, and you could even learn how to hit the low pitch.
All right, you ready to get to Jonathan India? You know what else I hate, by the way, too? One more thing. I hate people on social media who use scientific terms to describe hitting. It's very annoying.
My dad said,
am I right?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Why do people have to, if they use big words, they try to sound important when it comes to hitting?
Yeah.
Scapula loading.
Yeah.
I mean, this is flexion and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. The neurosystem and blah. It's like, what are you talking about? You know,
Kids, I mean, you should tell a 12-year-old kid that they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed." Here, this is how you're impressed. Find a barrel hill line drive somewhere. All right, are we ready for Jonathan India?
Yeah, I was going to read you a tweet from a random person. I won't say his name. Let me see here. Let me try to find it. You know what? Not important. I don't care. Let's get to Jonathan India. Just so you know, I don't like you hitting Twitter and Instagram people who use big words.
Big words. Don't confuse people.
Don't try to confuse everybody. You're not.
Let me show you something special, though.
You know what it's like? Ep, you know what it's like? It's like when like a bride has like 12 bridesmaids. It's like you don't have that many friends. Stop trying to impress everybody. You know, that's like people who do this hitting thing on Twitter with trying to use these big words. You don't know what you're talking about. Stop trying to impress everybody. What'd your daughter give you? Our intern.
When I coached at Mizzou a couple years ago in art class, she made a tiger.
Tiger.
That's a tiger.
Yeah.
But it's also a pen holder. You have to put the tail.
Yeah. It's a nice pen you got there.
In there's the hole. There you go.
Got to put the pen in that hole.
Sorry, it cracks me up every time I look at it. Yes, our intern. Okay, we learned how to fly fish today. I took her to a fly fish class. That was fun. Okay, to Jonathan India, who didn't spend much time in the minor leagues. You would know longer than I did, but if we look at this swing, so Jim, the swing we're looking at is it's India double to left center. They're playing the Brewers, just so you can follow along there. And I'm just going to take him, to his stride. And the reason I asked about Mookie Betts is this is a very similar. This would be as close to a Mookie Betts movement as I've seen in any big leaguer ever. Okay, so if you watch him come down from toe touch to heel plant and watch his knees open. So his knees open and he gets a ton of stretch. So if you look at him in his heel plant position, number one, his head stays behind center. Now this camera angle isn't 90 degrees. It's a little bit out in front, kind of towards the middle of the dugout. But his head is definitely back of center. So I'm going to draw a line. It's probably not as back as I'm showing it, but I guarantee you his middle of his head is probably over his right hip flexor. So not only is he back, but if you look at where his chest is facing, and then you look at where his hips are facing, right, there's a huge separation there. I mean, that's a very big separation of where those arrows, one's facing back and one's facing forward. And that's kind of where Mookie Betts is so athletic. And then the great spot about this position is I can get fooled. Now we're going to see on his other swing he does get fooled, so we'll look at that in a second. But from here you can get fooled, man. Your knee can bend, your weight, your front hip could slide. You could go forward, but if you keep your shoulders back like this as long as possible and your hands back, you're going to be just fine. Okay, so now let's continue after heel plant. He starts to rotate, and you can see his head pulls back a little bit. He's trying to pull this left arm out in front of his chest. Okay, so this is not, if you look at his left, so I brought him back to right after heel plant. If you look at the patch, the Reds patch, or you look at his arm guard, and you look at his sternum, okay, these two things are not moving together, which is what everybody tries to teach when they're turning. He's actually pulling his lead arm in front of his chest. Okay, his arm is moving faster than his chest in this position to get to this pitch. And maybe because it's an inside pitch, I don't know. But we can't always be the same as hitters. That's the reason that I'm making or bringing this up is we can't, every pitch is different, and we have to be able to use our hands properly when we need to use our hands. We can't just turn and expect everything to follow. It doesn't work like that. So again, I'm going to bring him back to his approach position when the barrel and the knob are in line, right? When the bat's parallel to the batter's box line, and I'm going to draw this line through the pitch plane. Okay. So it's kind of coming down like this to the catcher's mitt, and we can see his barrel really doesn't get that far underneath that line. I mean, maybe way back there, but by the time that barrel reaches the middle of his body, he can probably at least make contact here. He's going to hit it well there. He smokes it here. This is a double.
Okay. And then you can see he kind of extends really well, but his barrel does come off of that plane a little bit early. So if I bring it back to here, I would say he leaves here. So he's really only on plane for, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's probably 10 or 12 inches. He's on plane, but then he comes off. So anything out here, out in front of his front shin here, he's not going to be on plane. So what I would normally look at is, did he extend? Right? You know, usually if people come off a plane out in front of their front foot, it's because they didn't extend. Well, if I bring this back, he's totally extended. If you look at his right wrist, it's really weird. So bring him to his power V position when both arms extend. There's one arm, here's two arms. You can see the bat shoots out kind of the middle of those. So it's a great power V, but notice his top hand. See how it's bowed? It's like his palm is not up in his power V. His palm is like backwards towards his head. This is the telltale sign typically of someone that is has a wrapped bat in their stance, where their big knuckles are almost lined up. So if you bring him back to his stance, I mean, I don't know if I can zoom in here, but I will. It's going to get very blurry, you know, and I still can't even tell. But if you look here, he's probably kind of wrapped, would be my guess. Okay, with his top hand is wrapped. And so what we do, and there's a lot of the first person I ever saw was Bobby Abreu was like this. The first person I ever looked at on video, Bobby Abreu, was very similar to this. And so what he does is he has this right wrist. Now I have a great player I work with who I hope is listening to this. His name is Shea Grady. He's from, oh Lord, now they're going to hate me. What is the name of that town? Cranford? Did I say that right? Cranford? I think it's Cranford. It's in New Jersey, kind of northern New Jersey. Yeah, it's definitely more on the north end. And he has the same exact move. Like his right wrist looks just like this. And I probably have 3 or 4 other players, I just can't think of them, that do this same thing. So typically, if it does that, that barrel might go up a little soon. So instead of him getting to the back of the ball and going this way on this line on about a 5-degree upslope, he's going to come off that line and go up at like a 15-degree upslope. So if you're hitting a lot of ground balls, a lot of it has to do with that right hand. So what you can do is either flatten that right wrist, which is very difficult, okay, or he would have to adjust his swing and extend lower. Bryce Harper does this too, by the way. If you look at Bryce Harper's top hand wrist, it does the same thing. So, meaning in order to compensate, instead of his right arm extending on this line, it's fully extended here. That right arm would have to probably extend just a couple inches lower.
So you're saying he doesn't stay on plane. After contact, he cuts off.
He does. He comes up just a little bit more. Even though he's extending through it, if I put a number on that, so I'm going to bring him to contact. I'm going to put a line on his barrel. Okay, and then I'm going to go up a few frames through his barrel. His frames after contact, he's going up at like 23 degrees. Okay, you want to be at like 15 out in front like that. So this will hurt him. This will hurt him. I mean, and this is just one swing we're looking at, and I don't study him, so I don't, you know. Maybe this is the only time he's ever done that. But if I were his hitting coach, that would be a place that I would start to try to adjust so that I could keep him on plane longer. And maybe 1 out of every ground balls he hits to the left side is a line drive in the gap.
And this pitch is on the inner half, correct?
And this pitch is on the inner half. Yep.
Where does he hit this? You said right center.
You know, it says left center on my title. So, I think the reason is because of the way the camera shot. Like, I think if the camera was moved to the left, it would look like he's hitting it more out in front. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if I play this through and I watch him look, he looks like he's looking to left center at the end of the swing. Yeah. Because his hair comes through. So, I'm going to pull up his other swing here if you have questions or something you want to throw out there.
Well, I was just going to say on just a couple.
Yes. So this is a great clip here. Not to support the haircut chain of great clips, but this is one where this pitch is totally down. It's hard to say how low because he wears his pants above his knees.
Yeah.
And his socks don't even go all the way up that far, so you're seeing some tights. Then you're seeing
a
some.
little bit below his knees.
It's pretty low. So it's definitely below his knees. And we just look how much different this swing was than the last. If you bring him to heel plant, what does he look like? He looks like he did in the last swing. He looks like every great big league hitter. But you can see how aggressive his knees are at heel plant, right? His back knee's in a lot. His front knee's open a lot. His hands and chest are back. What a wonderful position here. But from here, watch him sink down.
Love that.
Yeah, like his back shin is going down. His front leg isn't straightening as soon to keep him down there. Okay, he's got to get down with his body. Now, the cool part about this is he's hitting this pitch out in front. Okay, now this is a different view. We're from behind now. So this pitch isn't, it looks like it's like 14 inches in front of his front foot. It's probably like right even with his front toes would be my guess. Maybe an inch or two in front of his front toes in reality where this pitch is. So, but what's great about this is if I draw that same line on the pitch plane, okay, coming down here, right, to the catcher's mitt, look at how his barrel gets to that plane late, not early, not back by his back leg, but his barrel doesn't hit the plane, not the bat, the barrel, until probably right here. And then his barrel is on it there, on it there, on it there, on it there. He hits it there, and then even here, he's going to extend lower. So his barrel stayed on plane here. So he's probably on plane, and it's way harder to be on plane on lower pitches. Like, you're not going to be on plane as long on lower pitches. But he was actually on plane longer than this on this pitch than he was the pitch that was more up and in that he came off of. So this was a great extension point. You can see his right arm. If we just looked at this power V position, here's one arm, here's the other arm, here's the bat. So let me do that again. I'm going to redraw this. So if I draw an arm, a line down his right arm, a line down his left arm, and then the bat, and we just looked at that, most people would think that he kind of swung like this. He swung down through the ball all the way to there. But that's not how it works. That's why video is so important and still shots, kind of tell a different story. But he may have felt like he swung down here. Maybe he felt like he swung up. I don't really care what he felt. The barrel goes down, down, down without going under that plane, right? We don't want to get under that plane too much. We want to get to that plane right on the inside of our front knee. I remember my dad saying that before we even looked at video. Try to get on plane in the inside of your front knee. And then you want to stay on plane as long as you can, and that's exactly what he did. So if you look at the difference
on a low pitch, sorry to cut you off, you're on a roll there. On a low pitch, you should feel, if you're staying connected, a cue could be you should feel like you're swinging down to the baseball while sinking into your legs. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to feel that way. Absolutely. So I tell players, we're going to get low. We're going to sink. One of the quick cues I give players is, pretend you're striding, and I don't care how tall you are when you stride, right? You can be straight up and down. But once your heel plants and you start to rotate, I want you to pretend that you're in a room and there's the ceiling. And you got to keep your head under that ceiling. Now, on most pitches, guys don't, or girls, right? They don't move their head above that line. You can see here, because the pitch is so low, that's right at the bottom of the knees, his head actually probably went down, and it went down because he had to lean in to get to this pitch down and away, and he still was able to hit it out in front. Talk about debunking, a lot of fallacies that are out there is, you got to let the outside pitch get really deep, right? Look at the catcher's mitt, right? The catcher's right foot is on the outside catcher's box line, right? And he's reaching across his body. So this pitch is outside. There's no doubt that this pitch is outside, and he's hitting this ball no deeper probably than his front toes. Okay. Now, I don't want guys to hit it that far out in front, but maybe right here at his front heel. Okay. And again, the camera's off, so just think about moving everything, your eyes back about, maybe 6 or 8 inches. This ball isn't as out in front as it looks. But again, you want to hit most pitches at your front toes, and then the pitch that's deep, hit here. And the smaller this window between the pitch hitting out in front and deep in the zone, the better your timing is going to be. If you're trying to hit some pitches here, and then you're trying to hit some pitches way back here, that's a difference of probably 6 or 7 miles an hour. That's going to be hard for your timing. But if you have proper mechanics and you extend the right way at the right time, then our timing window here, instead of having to be like 30 inches, only has to be 20 inches between a pitch inside and a pitch outside. And then you're going to just be more consistent.
I wonder what his batting average is on pitches that are low in the zone.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it was, it was 1,000 on this one.
What do you feel? What do you feel? Who's more? This is a broad question. I don't know if you can answer it. Who do you feel is a more valuable hitter? Somebody who can hit the high pitch with more consistency, or somebody who can hit the low pitch with more consistency? And which do you feel is harder to do?
Jim,
Yeah.
it's been fun. It's been fun. I feel like Howard Stern you're asking very good questions.
That's a
this might be the best.
I bet you people.
This is a phenomenal question that no one has ever asked me before.
You're lying. They have.
I am not. This is a phenomenal question.
I'm gonna
Okay.
do it. You know what? At the end of the year, just before you answer the question,
Yeah,
everybody out
I might
there,
forget.
for every organization, I'm going to do a hitting data project, and I'm going to rank the best high ball hitters and the best low ball hitters, and we're going to figure out which group is more valuable to their team based off all statistics that are involved. I just gave away a project. Now if somebody's going to do and
Yeah. I mean, I can look at.
go ahead, answer the. I'm sorry.
I can look at a player and be like, you want to pitch this player down or you want to pitch this player up.
Right.
I can look at video and tell people that.
Yeah.
So we have to backtrack a little bit. And is this current day? If it's current day, then I want guys that handle pitches up. If it's 6 or 7 years ago and earlier, when guys were throwing, well, maybe not that much, maybe 4 years and earlier, and guys are throwing down a lot of sinkers, down, guys aren't throwing as hard, lower spin rates, then I would want guys that were probably better low ball hitters.
Mhm.
Altuve hit a pitch the other day at his neck with about a 3-degree vertical bat angle
Mm-hmm.
that nobody should have hit. It was up and away, and he hit it in the Crawford boxes in left field.
Yeah.
But that's how you have to train. You have to train all those. Like, why was he able to do that? Because when he was a kid in the Dominican, they weren't selective.
Yeah.
Oh, it's up and away. I'm going to smash it. Oh, it bounced. Vlad Guerrero Sr. I'm going to hit that one too. And you develop all these bat ball skills with this range of high and low pitches. That's the kind of hitter you have to be. So for me, you do a lot more damage unless you're like a Joey Votto or somebody like that. That's really, kind of drops that barrel and really tries to get down to it. You're going to do a lot more damage on pitches from, pitches at your belt. Pitches at your belt should be hit out of the park. Right. Or they should be hit for doubles. If you can't hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball at your belt, then for me, you don't have much of a purpose in my lineup right now in 2021.
Okay.
If you can't handle 95 at the belly button,
yeah,
we're going to practice that. Like, we're going to work on that. Now, if you can't handle 95 or 93 at the kneecap very well, okay, like, can you fight it off with less than 2 strikes? Okay, you're of service as long as you can destroy that thigh high mistake.
But you know what? I think but you always hear analysts say, well, he went down and got that one.
Yeah.
Where I think it's, if you're a high level hitter, or I shouldn't say high level, I don't know, above average hitter, mentioned Votto there. But if you're like a Jonathan India, if you're like a Vlad Guerrero, a Bo Bichette, I don't know, should I throw Harper in that mix? Sure. I never give the guy. I don't give the guy enough credit. If you're like him or Freddie Freeman, who hasn't swung and missed in like 30 plate appearances in a row as of what's today's date? July 24th. Those guys get on plane with the pitch, with a high pitch, because they are above average hitters, because they have more consistent swing planes. But on low balls, your swing plane has to be intact. Not only do you have to sink into your legs, but you have to have a good swing plane. You can't get disconnected. So it's harder. Your value as a hitter goes up because it's harder to hit a low ball. No,
it's harder to hit. That's why pitchers wanted. That's where everybody wanted to throw.
But even with the launch angle revolution, it's still harder to hit a low ball.
No, because of what was taught. over the last few years, which is turn the barrel behind you. So get the barrel down earlier. So if you get the barrel down early,
Then why do
start
guys still
dropping-
struggle with it so much?
what's that?
Why do guys still struggle with hitting the low ball so much?
Because they don't throw that swing play or that thought helped with a low pitch. Now guys are throwing a higher spin rate, higher velocity, higher, so that move doesn't work. So then what will happen is in 3 years, everybody will be nice and flat, staying on top of balls, and then pitchers are going to start sinking and throwing down again.
Well, so let's dissect that really quickly. So you're
Mhm.
saying that pitchers are not throwing as low anymore because they feel that hitters have a different type swing plane where they're dropping.
Yeah,
the
so
barrel,
I mean, if you call it launch angle swing, is what?
right,
Hit the ball where? In the air.
right.
So if we're trying to hit the ball in the air, where does our barrel have to be?
I thought the
Lower.
launch angle from all the smart people that came up with it, it was supposed to be a swing that played for every spot, every zone, high, low, east, west.
No, that's not it. It's launch angle is.
That's
trying to
what
hit
they
the ball in
came
the
up.
air.
I didn't say that. I'm saying
Oh,
that's
okay.
what they came up with it. I'm not saying that.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, if people say, "Oh, I'm trying to create more launch angle," like
Yeah.
they're trying to create something above 20 degrees, right? Something
Okay.
high. Okay. In order to hit the ball high, you got to be underneath most of the time of your swing.
Okay.
If the ball's coming in like this, you want your swing to be down here most of the time. If I'm a little late, I miss it, but at least
Yes.
if I get it here, I'm hitting it in the air. I'm hitting it in the air. So we're staying underneath everything. So to stay underneath, you're trying to stay underneath a low pitch to do it. It's very easy to stay underneath.
I'm
a
going to
high
watch. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm still going to, and I didn't say that about launch angle. I want to make that clear.
Yeah,
Not to
yeah,
you,
yeah.
To the audience that I didn't come up with that. From what I've read about launch angle, they like whatever.
And it's not even a damn swing. It's a launch angle is a result of what the
Right.
ball and the bat are doing that collision course.
I'm going to watch games this weekend, and I'm going to try to calculate how many guys hit low pitches. And I'm going to use Baseball Savant. We did an episode on baseball.
Do it.
We did an episode on Baseball Savant, didn't
Do
we? It's bad. It's in the archives.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see on that low pitch on Baseball Savant the exit velocity. We sound like real geeks right now. We sound like those people on Twitter who use the neurological things on talking about hitting. I'm going to figure out. I'm going to try to calculate the number of low pitches with an exit velocity of over, what would you say, 95? The guys hit over 95 in a single game. And I'm going to figure out my study.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out my study and my research and try to figure out if it is still hard, even with the launch angle, to hit a low pitch, because I still think it is. And I'm going to figure it out.
So it is, but it's also not as difficult to hit a low pitch hard because your hardest balls that are ever hit are ground balls.
Okay.
So, I would say I look at it this way when I evaluate which pitch is easier to do damage on, a pitch at the knees or a pitch at the top of the thighs. Which one's easier to hit a double on?
I think top of the thighs.
Top of the thighs, no doubt about it, right? So do you have a swing that will destroy? We just looked and saw that pitchers miss their spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if all of a sudden I can't hit a double on a pitch at the top of my thighs 8 out of 10 times, then I don't deserve to be in a league. Okay, that's what we talked about destroying mistakes, right? Like you're not going to destroy a pitch at the knees. You might hit a hard ground ball somewhere, but you're not going to have a lot of extra base hits, even though you hit it hard. So I would urge you to look at maybe exit velocity, but maybe look at slugging percentage on pitches at the knees. See how many were hit for singles versus how many were hit for doubles.
You're urging me. It's urgent.
I'm pushing you in that direction. I'm nudging you in that
All right.
direction.
Maybe next week I'll pick a game this week.
I know you don't have much going on, so
No, I
it
don't.
wouldn't be a problem.
I'll pick a game this week and I'll do it. We'll
Okay.
see.
All right.
See how high, and we'll calculate how high the slugging percentage in general. Anyway, before we bore everybody here, I want to get to our final, one of our final segments. We have a listener comment. We don't have questions today. We've got comments. Another listener comment. This comes to us from Jack from Paramus, New Jersey. Jack writes, Jim and Jake, this is a follow-up to last week's listener question. It's not a knock on Al or Jack Leiter, just some background information regarding Jack's age and how he was able to get drafted out of college as a sophomore. Credit to his father, a Major League veteran, for knowing what it's all about and helping his son. Some people do not know and become victims of the process. I think that's fair. We kind of touched on that last week, didn't we? Leiter, born in Florida, grew up in Summit, New Jersey, and attended and played high school at some shitty high school in Morristown. I can't read the high school's name. That's why I said shitty. It's called Del Barton High School, if anybody knows where that is. Jack, by the way, is giving us like an excerpt from his media guide here. A non-public school powerhouse. Leiter turned 19 in April of his senior year. You may remember these names. You probably did breakdowns on them. One of his teammates in high school was Anthony Volpe. Volpe was a first-round pick by the Yankees out of high school and signed rather than go to Vanderbilt with Leiter. He's currently in Advanced A. His other teammate, Sean Rapp, went to North Carolina and was a COVID redshirt freshman this past season. Volpe is a year younger than Leiter. Rapp is 3 months younger than Leiter, so it looks that Leiter was held back somewhere along the line, maybe be a result of moving around due to his father's career. Likely Rapp was held back too. Volpe was not. Hope this helps. Jack from Paramus, New Jersey. Jack, thank you for writing in at jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Look, here's the deal, everybody. Let's just put an end to this right now. All right? You can get held back. I got held back. I went to what's called pre-first after kindergarten.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I still remember my teacher's name. Her name rhymed with Oreo. Her name was Mrs. Florio.
Huh.
Very nice lady. She had an weird obsession with chickens. Like she always would read us stories about chickens. It was very bizarre. Here's the deal, though. If you get held back, it only gets you to a certain point. You still have to be able to play. I don't care what your age is. You're still going to have to be able to play. When Jack gets to the major leagues, who's he going to be pitching against? Guys younger than him, guys older than him. You're still going to have to be able to play. There's my take on it. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely held back. I mean, I have a kid with the same birthday, with a March birthday.
Yeah.
She'll be 18. She'll turn 18 in the middle of her senior year, right? And she's on, like, she has a good birthday. Mm-hmm. So he's not even borderline. You know, he was put into, and again, boys are much more immature at a young age. And so a lot of parents are like, they're not ready for kindergarten yet. And whatever, it worked out. Now, where is that an advantage? In high school, he was a man, right? I mean, he was a man in high school. He's competing against people that are 17 and he's 19 during the high school season. Mm-hmm. And they're probably both seniors. Because a lot of people could turn 18 like in June and still be a senior. So, you know, he was a full year and a half older than most people in high school. That's where it shows up. Then you get to college and you're a man. So you have a better opportunity to play in college. College coaches do not care how old you are, right? They only care about how much eligibility you have. The Major League Draft cares how old you are. So if Jack would have gone back to college this year, mm-hmm. for another year, and then they go to draft him and he's 22 as a junior, 22 and a half as a junior. Now they're like, well, he's old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now all of a sudden he's not the prospect he was when he was, 20 or 21. So whatever, it worked out for him. He's 21 years old now, right? He just turned 21 in April. 22, he'll be in the big leagues by the time he's 23. If he would have signed in high school at age, 19, he'd probably still be in the big leagues at age 23. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of the way it works out. The issue is it doesn't work out for everyone.
Yeah.
Like he was a freak that was going to be a big leaguer no matter what. It's just he had an easier path through college because he was so much better than every high school player growing up. And he was a little bit older growing up. I mean, you could read the book Outliers, right? They talk about, have you read that, Jim?
I have not.
Outliers. I mean, the first chapter is about the Canadian national hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have like January birthdays.
Yeah.
All their birthdays are in January because when the cutoff was December 31st. So they were always the oldest kids in the league, whether it was 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and 7-year-old. They were the biggest and the oldest. Mm-hmm. And why? They were the best too, because they were the biggest and the oldest. And the best kids get the best coaching moving up. So then they were on the 10-year-old national team. They had the best coaches. And it's just kind of the process of, if you're older, you're going to mature faster than, a 10-year-old that just turned 10 versus a 10-year-old about to turn 11. That's a huge difference physically and mentally for an athlete. And unfortunately, people kind of play that game a little more than they should.
Yeah.
Because they think everybody's going to be a Division I athlete, and that's just not the case.
All right. Well, I hope that we finally solved the mystery of Jack Leiter and people being held back. I mean, we've been going on this for now 2 weeks. It's been a storyline of the show for 2 weeks. Next week, we dive into our top 5 hitting absolutes. And then the week after that, Ep's on vacation. We have a special co-host that we have not yet announced, but we do have a co-host who's going to fill in for Ep. Yeah. Excuse me. And then after that, I forget what we're doing, but we have Shohei.
I'm sure we're doing something.
We're doing something. We have Shohei Ohtani coming up in August. We'll break down his swing. Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Oh no, he hits the low pitch. There's a lot to figure out here.
He hits every pitch.
Yeah.
Without using his legs.
Yeah. Well, we'll break down him. I hope everybody enjoyed our mechanical breakdown series today, though. So next week, our top 5 hitting absolutes, and then after that, we have a special co-host because Ep's going on vacation because he's a slacker. I'm kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody did. I have not been on vacation a long. Actually, my life's a vacation. I live in Florida. What's coming up at the lab? You already mentioned earlier, but it's worth mentioning again.
Ramping up. We probably have some more mini camps coming up at the end of the summer. School starts soon, so we'll go back to our regular classes over Christmas. For those of you, I know Marcus is listening to this. Oklahoma State Marcus will be out. We'll still have our college camp where we do. I work with about 6 or 8 kids that I've known for a long time, and we kind of prep them for the season. We'll do baseball and softball for that sessions. And then we have certification at the lab, like I said, October 16th, 17th. So be sure to get on that. That'll be a fun. Those are just the best events. They're fun. We meet good people. It's a lot of information, but I'll tell you what, it's so useful. We talk about, Bailey Hemphill a lot, and she's an All-American. She's a great hitter. Well, her dad came to certification. Her dad wasn't a hitting instructor, but he wanted to give her the best information possible. Yeah. And the countless of my players, the reason I told that kid in New Jersey who's a really good player, Shea Grady, his dad went through certification when Shea was 10 or 11 years old. And he just learned what to teach and what to stress about and what not to worry about. And so if there's one gift I can give parents, I don't care if you're a coach or not, or coaches, is learn what information hitting wise is really important, and that will help your kid at age 14 mature and know what is fluff and what you don't have to worry about to make them successful. So anyway, sorry to blow off about that. There's just a lot of extra information people talk about with hitting. We talked about the 4-syllable words that don't mean a damn thing.
Yeah,
it happens. Those moves happen. They happened with Willie Mays and Babe Ruth, but I don't think Babe Ruth thought about, loading his rear hip flexor.
They didn't know what that was back then.
Somebody did.
Nice catch, Mays. Don't ever do it again.
That's right.
All right.
Way to clean it up.
Thank you for listening and watching, everybody. We will talk to you next week. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting. Okay. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.